in Kautilya's worldview, I think in terms of public policy, he saw it as sort of a self-correcting mechanism between the market and the state. In very simple terms, in the overall macroeconomy, we have the state, we have the market. So if there are any interventions that need to be made, either the state increases taxes or builds infrastructure, builds projects, or the state gives direct benefit transfers, for example. So the state does all these things to sort of intervene in the economy. And the same with the market. So the market has its own fluctuations, and people intervene in the market to sort of stabilize it and things like that. But what Kautilya says is that the idea of dharma could be something which can self-correct both of them, rather than just changing these two binaries. So, for example, if there is, say, corruption in the state, the idea of dharma could actually ensure that more dharmic society could ensure that the state and the components of the state could be less corrupt, and there could be mechanisms to sort of derive it. So Kautilya saw dharma as sort of a foundation and a self-correcting mechanism. So basically, his thinking was that the more you enhance the sort of dharmic fabric, the more the state and the market are sort of, their burdens are lesser, and this ensures there's more sustainability. So that's where the idea of dharmic capitalism comes. And in terms of the components of it, I think if you read the book, you get a better sense. But the broader sort of pillars, I would say, is the roles of ethics, responsibilities, and also a broader worldview of sort of an internationalist approach. And this is something, which is something often ignored, in the sense that if you look at, say, 1,000 years of history or more, there were very few civilizations which were as open in terms of trade, in terms of engaging with the world as ours. The last probably 60, till the 1990s, post-independence was probably the only time where we saw sort of closeted in our thinking. But for the rest of history, if you look at, right from Kautilya's time, right from the, other Hindu kingdoms, right, the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, the Vijayanagara Empire, all of them had, extensive international trade. All of them had, many people like Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal has talked about maritime routes. So the idea of a sort of an open mind frame was something which is the status quo, not the other way around. So the pillar of dharmic capitalism at a conceptual level, where dharma plays a role of self-correcting mechanism, is construed through the idea of ethics, responsibilities, and international worldview, and that sort of maps on to the idea of wealth creation, a rule-enforcing state, a non-intrusive one, and then sustainable growth. So these are sort of the contours of what I would define as Kautilya's view of dharmic capitalism. The institutions, I think, integrity, a clean administration, clean leadership. Kautilya always believed that the king is at best a servant of the people, and he needs to cater for the welfare of the people, and he needs to be clean. If the king and his kith are not clean, he advocates them to be replaced, with others. So clean leadership, clean administration, and very sort of transparent institutions is what he envisaged. And lastly, on this point, this is a theme that you find across the Arthashastra. In terms of labor contracts, is another example. You could find that Kautilya wants employees and the employer to share their labor contracts publicly, even though if it's a daily wage laborer, for example. The sort of contractual elements that we talk today for daily wage laborers, Kautilya already had that idea. So it's consistent that he is open, he's for transparency, and he believes in clean institutions.